CNT125, Chapter 9, we're looking at the section on our security assessment. Different organizations have different network security risks. A school, as you think of like the school you went to, they have some security risks. You basically need to protect the student data, whether it be grades or addresses and phone numbers and that sort of thing. But after that, it's like, we're not trying to protect any patents. We're not trying to protect any, financial data, so to speak, like Visa card numbers and all that stuff. So our security risks in a place like a school are relatively low. On the other hand, you go to a place like a hospital, you now have patient records, you now have health insurance information, you now have social security numbers, you now have payment information, you now have people's personal medical records, that sort of thing. There's a lot more at stake there that needs to be dealt with. So, every organization periodically needs to do what's called a posture assessment, or some sort of security assessment to find out how are we doing. And this is either done internally by your IT team or an outside source. And the idea is you're trying to go through and find out, where are our vulnerabilities? What sort of things do we need to be working on to try to secure, beef up, prop up, make better, etc. And that really is a thorough examination of everything, and needs to be performed annually. Sometimes it's done every 6 months, if you will. Your IT team can do it, but you can also contract out and have somebody else do it. And sometimes that's worthwhile to have them come out and give you a thorough examination from an outside point of view of like, yes, this is good. No, this is very easily to circumvent. You may not realize it, but it is. And if you actually have this security assessment done by an outside firm that's like certified or accredited, this could actually count for your security audit that you would do, that might be required depending on hospital, that sort of thing. So this needs to be done periodically to make sure your systems are everything you're doing is trying to secure your data and make sure you don't have things coming in or going out that you're not supposed to. There's a number of different scanning tools that can get used during this posture assessment. You're basically duplicating the kinds of things that a hacker would do. So you're using the same kind of equipment and techniques that hackers would be doing. So one is you're going to do a vulnerability. There's a number of different things you're going to do: vulnerability scanning, penetration testing, and usually red team, blue team exercises. Let's take a look at these real quick. Vulnerability scanning is just that. I'm going to try to scan for any vulnerabilities in my network, whether it be the operating system, firewall, routers, switches, wireless, etc., servers. We're not trying to exploit anything, but we're just trying to find out, is there anything that could be exploited? So one of the ways you do that is you actually do it from the point of view of like an employee. You pretend like you have an employee, and what can they get access to? I'm logged in as Doug Brown. He only has access to the teacher folders. Can he get access to other stuff that he's not supposed to by accident? That's one thing you would do. Unauthenticated would be, okay, somebody from the outside trying to hack their way in. What could they get access to by trying this? Is there an open port number? Is there an FTP port open? Is there a telnet port open? That sort of thing. That's your vulnerability scanning. Penetration testing is like, okay, now that I found that open telnet port, what can I do with it? I'm going to try to exploit, telnetting into a router and see where I can get, telnetting into my firewall and see where I can get, hitting a switch and see if I can jump into another VLAN, that sort of thing. Now I'm going to try to exploit that. Last is your red team, blue team. Now you're actually going to have two teams. One that's actually trying to get into the network, and the other one is going to try to respond to it. The red team is normally attacking. Blue team is usually the one that's defending. And many times this is done in we know it's coming, but we don't know when, and all of a sudden you're getting attacked. So it's really a test to see how well does the IT team do at this company to respond to this attack and stop it in midstream and or protect it or get rid of this attack. And that's an exercise in how well does your IT team respond to these emergencies, because they're going to happen. How well do they respond to them? Some information provided when we're doing this. Okay, available hosts, different services, operating systems that are running, open and close ports, placement of firewalls, that sort of thing, any sort of unencrypted sensitive data, that sort of stuff. That is actually located or found when we're doing scanning. And we use things like Nmap. Hopefully you remember using that in 120. We're going to use this again here in 125 very soon. This is a scanner that's looking at, you actually hit a device like a firewall, a router, or a server and go, what is open, what is closed? And now that I know that, I might be able to use the next step and exploit this open port number. That's your Nmap. That's your Nmap. And the GUI version of that's called Zenmap, just as a little side note, because we're going to end up installing Zenmap in our Linux node. Nessus performs a more sophisticated vulnerability scan than Nmap, and I'm going to pull up a lot more information with this one. And this one here, I'm getting more information about these particular nodes or entities on a network. Metasploit, it's going to combine kind of both of those and potentially new attack routes with that. Metasploit. I think I have a picture of this guy too. Okay. So we're going to end up using Nmap in our lab. We've done it before. We'll end up doing it again to get a little bit more feel for what it gives us now that we know a little bit more. There are some networks or some companies that are actually going to create a bait. They actually create a server that they want hackers to try to compromise so they can learn how they're getting in and try to use that information to protect their network even more. So they actually create a honeypot. This is a system out there that's, okay, I'm using air quotes here, that's secured, and they let hackers have at it. And while they're doing it, they're kind of watching what they're doing, taking notes and being like, oh, okay, they tried that. Okay, maybe we start using these in our network to try to protect our network. Let's move into physical security now. Let's look into some physical security. Physical security is, all right, we only should have employees getting into the building, and once they're in the building, only the IT employees should be getting into the data closets, the IT closets. So there needs to be mechanisms in place to limit only the employees getting into the building, and then another set of mechanisms to limit only the IT folks to get into the data closet. And that's all part of physical security. There needs to be something in place. And things like, here's the next couple of slides we're going to talk about. Keypads or cipher locks. There should be some sort of a way to limit people getting into parts of my building, and this can be done with keypads or cipher locks. These guys right here. You need to have a certain code to get into the data closet. Okay, and they come in various forms. Now with that, these codes need to be changed frequently. And again, it's not foolproof. It's just one piece of a bigger puzzle. They also have some that actually almost work like a car remote. A key fob is going to let me unlock or lock this door into a room or a closet. And even these little guys can do it too. Access badges. This is very common in companies to use a employee badge that has the name and picture on. So right off the bat, you're trying to be like, okay, you don't have this, we're not going to let you in. Secondly, this often gets used to swipe to unlock a gate or a door for people to get into the building just to work. And these have become much more popular than keys. Years ago, it used to be like, okay, you're an employee, here's your key. Keys aren't used so much anymore because they can be easily duplicated. These ID badges are tougher to duplicate, and with them you can actually program them that you're only allowed in certain parts of the building and even at certain times of the day. So if I try to get into the building, my lab room at 3 in the morning, it's not going to let me. It's going to say, what are you doing here? Go home. You don't belong here. If I try to come in at 7:30 in the morning, it's like, okay, these are work hours. Come on in. Go ahead. Class starts at 8, so we're going to let you in at 7:30. So these can be programmed for access to certain rooms as well as certain times. These also are dealt with, too, of like, okay, Mr. Brown gets fired. We're going to disconnect his access badge that he tries to come back tomorrow. He can't even get in the building. So these can actually, they have some advantages to them. Not foolproof, but again, it's one piece of a larger puzzle, trying to limit who has access to what area. Proximity cards are the same kind of idea. Proximity cards, these guys here, a different type of reader on the wall, and these are letting you into or out of an area. Some biometrics get used. Biometrics is the whole iris scan or fingerprint scan. These get used sometimes for systems and or doors as well. There's a fingerprint scan. Here's an iris scan. Here's another style fingerprint scan. There's another style fingerprint scan. And there's even one that actually scans your whole hand geometry. So some of these are getting used for access to certain areas of a building too. The book did not mention this, but I wanted to mention for you real quick something called a Mantrap. It's basically a two-door system to get in or out of an area. And I have a couple different pictures. The idea is while this door is open, no matter what, this one will not open. Once this door closes and you swipe your badge, now this one will open. This gets used sometimes going in and out of server rooms or secure areas, sometimes even at banks. One of the banks I go to actually has this. As you open the outer door of the bank, the inner door is closed and will not open. Only when that outer door closes can the inner door be open. And in between those two is actually a metal detector. Like I said, one of the banks I go to, it's like that. It actually has a Mantrap built into it. Not uncommon. This is not uncommon. And here's another example here, just to get you to realize that they're out there, the kind of thing you're seeing. You know, I open this door, once it closes, then I can swipe my badge. This temporarily locks while this one opens. So it's only permitting the people that should be in there and not allowing the whole tailgating thing of somebody to kind of sneak in behind me. I can say, what are you doing in here? I'm the only one allowed in here. These get used at airports. Basically your scanning machines. I left this in here as a reminder. Sometimes these kind of things get used as well. Okay. Next area they mention is our actual detection systems. If somebody does get in, I need a way to detect that, and that's where your motion detectors come in. They mentioned motion detectors. Some of these are just set up they sense motion when it's not supposed to be occurring. It triggers an alarm. Some actually, when it senses motion, it actually triggers a camera and starts recording. Could be useful. And that brings us to the closed-circuit television system. And I threw an example here of a closed-circuit television system. Most of these are IP cameras because that's what most systems are using today. But these can be mounted anywhere to record information. Again, a motion sensor goes and detects motion. The camera kicks on and starts recording. There's even some of these that are used at home now. Doorbell with a camera built in that senses motion and starts recording, and you can watch it through your phone. Okay. They mention these because IT teams might actually be part of installing or maintaining these systems. There might actually be a security guard that is watching and responding to, but you might need to be part of the team that's helping installing or maintaining these on the IT end. There's also some tamper detection that might be done as well. Tamper detection is just that, making sure so nobody has messed with it. This is just a simple plastic lock here, but they do have systems that if it notices a blockage, it can't see, so to speak, it's going to set off an alarm or something of that nature, or it's moved, it might set off an alarm. So there's actually different tamper methods, tamper-proof methods, tamper detection methods for all this. Asset tracking is another one. Some places you need to keep track of certain items, so this might be done through either RFID tags or barcodes, something of that nature. Barcodes could be done to move product through a warehouse scenario, but I might even be using RFID tags. As it gets unloaded, it's scanning all that information, pulling it into a database. As it gets processed and heads out, it's scanning and saying, hey, these have left the building. Medical facilities might even be using RFID tags to tag where certain equipment is, even beds too. Where is a certain bed? This patient has left the operating room, is in recovery. They've left recovery, they're now in room in 402 or whatever it happens to be. That might actually be used as well. So with all of this, we have questions like, who should have access, etc., etc. And they point all these out for planning your physical security. Questions you should be asking on who has access and where should they be going, what do they have access to. So there's some physical security.